When you're in the middle of addiction, it feels like if we can just get to sobriety, that will fix everything. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case. Getting sober actually just gets you to the starting line of being able to get better. There's so much damage, destruction, and trauma that's been created in the wake of addiction that then there is a whole separate process of healing all of that hurt and pain. And that hurt and pain is on both sides. So, in today's video, I'm going to be addressing how to help the other side heal from the trauma of addiction. And by the other side, what I mean is if you're the addicted person in early recovery, how do you help your family member? And I'm also going to talk about if you're the family member, how do you help your loved one in early recovery? Everybody's recovery is their own responsibility, okay? But let's be real. There are some things you could do to help it out. So I'm going to tell you exactly what those things are, and we're going to start with the what the addicted person did. Actually, scrap that. What the person in early recovery can do to help their loved one, and even if you don't feel like you're in recovery yet, but you're trying to get there and you're making steps in that direction, you could start on some of these now, and you could even begin the healing process as you're figuring out the recovery process. These are just good relationship healing things that are going to go a long, long way. The thing that happened this week that brought this topic to my mind is one day this week at lunch, I was talking to Kim. A lot of you guys know Kim. She's one of our family counselors. And we were sort of treatment teaming about someone that's in our recovery coaching program. And I see the husband and she sees the wife, which is pretty common around the office. And I said, and she was basically sort of filling me in on some of the wife's concerns or whatever and the frustration she was feeling. And this person, the husband, the one I see, he's been sober for quite a while. And I said, it feels like lately we've had like a string of people that even after the loved one is sober and like doing really good, that they're just out, they're just done, they're just exhausted. And then it's like they can't take it anymore, which is strange because while the person is in the active addiction, a lot of times the family member is just so consumed with getting them sober. It's like this focus and this fixation. It helps to, I think, block out some of those trauma feelings. It helps you to not really absorb everything that's really going on. And a lot of times after someone gets sober, then it starts to really hit home, and then your unhappiness. And that's really hard on both people when that happens. It's really hard because it's like, wow, I've already went through all this traumatic, terrible stuff with this person. Why would I leave now? And then for the addicted person, it's like, seriously, you said if I did this, we're going to be fine. And now I've done it and it's not enough. So that's what brought this topic on, really. It's like, how do we get past everything that happened, right? The addicted person usually just wants to forget it ever happened. And the family member never wants to forget that it happened. They never want to let it go. In fact, they usually want to talk about it all the time. And we're going to talk about how much to talk about it and that kind of thing. So hang in there. Let's move into what the addicted or early recovery person can do to help their loved one heal and move forward and trust you more and forgive and not be bringing up all the stuff. You know the drill. It's going to help them, but helping them is going to help you tremendously. So it's a double bonus here, okay? The first thing that your family member needs from you is they need for you to be able to talk about it. One of the biggest, most common frustrations that I hear from family members is they will not talk about it. If I bring it up, they'll either blow up or they'll just start a fight or they'll just shut down and stonewall me, or they'll just give me the silent treatment and not talk to me for 3 weeks, or they'll literally tell me if I bring it up, they're going to leave me. And I get why that is, because it is extremely uncomfortable. It makes you feel super squirmy, right? You're embarrassed about what's happened. You have regret about what's happened. You have a tremendous amount of shame about what's happened. But when you can't talk about it at all, what happens is hearing you talk about it lets them know that you know. And that's what they need more than anything else. They need to know that you know. And usually, I kind of know that the people know because they're talking to me about it. And usually it's like the person has great insight, they get it, they're remorseful, they feel bad, like all the things, but they don't ever want to say it to their loved one, whether that's their parent, their spouse, their sibling, whoever that is. And part of the reason why you don't want to bring it up in early recovery is because you know that there is like this volcano of resentment, hurt, and fear in this other person, and you are literally afraid to get near it. And it feels like if you bring it up, it's like you're bringing the match up close to the like leak of gasoline or something, right? Like, and so you're scared to do that. However, one of the things you can do to alleviate some of that pressure on the other side, that resentment, anger, fear, all that stuff that's making them like a hot mess and making them come at you in a very uncomfortable kind of way, is to talk about it. Not all the time. And what I mean by talk about it is just sort of share with them some of the insight that you have. Think about, what is it you would be telling me about it? And I'm like, have you told them that? It would do your loved ones a lot of good to know that that it is an addiction, first of all, to know that what you did hurt them. So that's the next piece, the talking about it, the things you want to convey are that you are insightful into the problem and that you understand that problem hurt them. I know you didn't mean for it to hurt them. It doesn't mean that you're an awful choice. Hey, they hurt you too. We're going to talk about that when we get to their side. I'm going to be fair, okay? But you've got to acknowledge that your choices had an impact on them that probably wasn't good, let's face it, okay? And they will heal so much faster if you can just talk about it every now and then. Okay. If they watch this channel, then it's probably going to be a little safer to talk about it. Because if your family watches this channel, then they're going to know to keep it cool when you do talk about it. And if you're trying to talk about it and they can't keep it cool, then send them over to the channel and we'll get them fixed up. All right. So they need for you to be able to open up about it some. There are some things that you might not want to open up with your loved one because it might be such a trigger for them. It's too much to handle. So when I'm saying open up, I don't necessarily mean tell them every bad thing you've ever done or tell them every time you had the thought that you wanted to drink or use or get high or whatever. But it's the insightful things. It's the wisdom that you have and the wisdom that you're gaining and the intentions that you have. Be transparent about that, and it will go a million miles towards helping your loved one heal. The next thing that your loved one really, really needs from you is they need you to hold up your end of the responsibilities. In most cases, maybe not in every case, but in most cases, if you've had an addiction, you've probably been dropping the ball. Maybe you're still going to work and maybe you're still doing excellent at work, or maybe you're still going to school and your grades are still good. But chances are, at the very least, you have been dropping the ball at home, whether that's financially helping, whether that's emotionally being present, whether that's helping with the children, whatever that is, there are ways you have dropped the ball, and your loved one has probably been holding up their responsibilities and a lot of your responsibilities for a very long time, and they are exhausted. And this is a really big ask of me, I know, because it's like you got to work your recovery program, you need to like talk to your counselor, you need to go to meetings, you need to listen to podcasts, you need to meditate, you need to exercise, you need to go to church, whatever, do all these things for your recovery. And I want you to have difficult conversations, and I want you to jump in there and let them be a teammate, be a contributing family member again. Man, that will alleviate some pressure on your loved one so much. And then their tension's going to go down. Guess what happens when their tension goes down? Your tension goes down because they're bringing you a lot of tension. Can you feel it? Can you feel the heat? We'll talk more about the heat in a second. I know that you do, and that's why you're almost just so nervous to be around them at all, because you're just afraid you're going to set it off. So hold up your end of the responsibilities, be open to talking about it from time to time. Just let them inside your head a little bit. Just kind of be transparent. Other things you can be transparent about are things like if you're going to be running late, if you had to pull some money out of the account, if you had to pay a bill and it costed more than you thought. Like, go ahead and just preemptively communicate those things. Most of the time, those things wouldn't have ever been a big deal. But when you're in the situation of early recovery, they are a big deal, because if you, any of those things will set up all these like alarm bells in your loved one. And if you don't preemptively communicate with them about it, then the conversation that's going to be had is going to be much less pleasant, because they're going to be either, one, confronting you about it, or two, holding it in, but knowing it deep inside and acting super passive aggressively with you about it. But one way or the other, it's going to come your way negatively. So just let them know that you know, let them know that you're aware. The next thing that's super important is your loved one needs for you to own the problem, okay? And you might say, well, I've already admitted I'm addicted. I've already told them I'm an alcoholic. But I mean more than that, kind of on a deeper, more emotional level. They need you to own it in the way that it's like, probably what's been happening leading up to being in recovery is you've been blaming everyone and everything around you. You've been blaming your self-confidence. You've been blaming your anxiety. You've been blaming them. Let's be real. You've been blaming them, or you've been putting a lot of it on them. And what will go a long way is if you own it. There were choices made. Now, whether you think it's a disease, whatever you think about it, I think we can all agree there were choices that were made in there, right? There were some choices that were, and if you can own that, oh my gosh, that helps so much, because again, it reinforces that, it lets your loved one know that you know. If you're a loved one right now and you're listening to this, either live or on the replay, I would love it if you would put your a little hand emoji or something in the chat, or say, oh yeah, that would help. let us hear, if you think these things that I'm saying, if your loved one could do these things, would it help you to heal faster? I'm just curious what you think. The next thing that you could do to really help your loved one is you could see the positive in them. And that may seem strange. You may not have even thought about that before, but typically what's happened as addiction has progressed is there's so much built up tension between you and your loved one, right? And they've not been showing you the best version of themselves, and you've not been showing them the best version of yourself. And there's been so much contention for so long, it's maybe hard to even see the good qualities in your loved one. I tell the family members all the time to see the good qualities in you. So I'm telling you to give them a little forgiveness and grace, and realize that maybe they didn't handle it perfectly. Maybe they contributed to it in some way, but there are positive things about your loved one. This is hard because while you were in active addiction, you have been convincing yourself that they are literally the devil. And so I'm asking you to rethink it, okay? At least look at the situation with fresh eyes. And just like I tell family members to look at your situation as the addicted person and realize that that's not you, that's the addiction. What I want you to realize is that's not them. That is the addiction. I can predictably tell you exactly what an addicted person's going to do, and I can predictably tell you exactly what the family member's going to do, because it's a symptom of the problem. I mean, you could say they're going to do this, 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 this. The family member is going to get negative. They're going to get critical. They're going to get controlling. They're going to start crossing all up in your boundaries. They're going to start being intrusive in a million ways. They're going to start hounding you and nagging you. Did those things happen to you? Did your loved one do that to you when you were struggling? Yeah, they did. And it's not because that's who they are as a person. It is a symptom of the addiction, just like some of your behaviors were not true to who you are. So I'm going to ask you to look past some of that, see some of the good parts in them, because when you can see the good part in your family member, they'll show you more good part. And this works both ways, okay? But when you see them and you have respect for them and you have positive esteem for them, all these things, you'll get more of that back. So, again, this isn't just for your loved one, it's going to help you too. They need some reassurance that you're not going to hurt them again. This might be the most complicated of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do, because there are definitely some schools of thought and philosophies in recovery, the just for today kind of school of thought, which is like, I can't promise you I'm never going to use again. I can't promise you I'm never going to relapse. And to a large degree, I mean, there's some validity to that, right? And there's some reasons why sometimes in recovery we encourage people to take that mindset. However, what you maybe can come to terms with is like, I realize that my behaviors have hurt my loved one, and I am going to do everything in my power not to continue to hurt my parent, my child, my sister, my husband, my wife, whoever it's usually the person that's closest to you that gets the most damage. So if you can give them some reassurance that you own the problem, that you get the depth of the problem, that you understand that it hurt them, and that you are doing everything in your power not to hurt them again. And that's a little bit deeper than even just saying, I'm never going to drink again. It's saying like, I'm not going to let us get to that point again. And there are a lot of things that you do to help reassure them. And that's just by working your recovery program that gets them some reassurance. Again, it's just about letting them know that don't be scared to walk into that uncomfortable conversation. If you initiate the conversation, it's likely to go a lot smoother than if you wait until they have built it up, and then they're confronting you and they're wanting this information from you. They're going to be coming at you in a way that's going to make you defensive. So as scary as it is, initiate the uncomfortable conversations and you'll save yourself a super ton of heartache. And then another thing you can do is ask them what you can do to help. These are my things that I think will probably universally help your loved one heal faster, but there might be some little specific things that I'm not even thinking of. So ask them, make the question a part of the conversation. What can I do to help things move along? What can I do to help you feel more reassured? Be open to hearing what they have to say. So just ask them. This is a good time to sort of drop this in here. This video is sponsored by SoberLink. And one of the best things you can do, one of the best, most effective ways you can reassure your loved one if the problem has been alcohol, is to enroll in the SoberLink process. Because not only does SoberLink is going to give you peace of mind. I mean, it's going to give them peace of mind, but it's going to give you independence, because it's going to be definitive proof that you are doing great. And the wonderful thing for you about that is like, they're not going to be all up in your business near as much. They're not going to be worried every time you walk out the door to go to the Target or whatever, And so it gives you the independence. It gives them the reassurance. A lot of you have heard me talk about SoberLink before. It is a breathalyzing system. It's a lot more than just a breathalyzer. It's sort of a high-tech thing. You can't really cheat it. And so because of that, it gives your loved one a ton of reassurance. So if the problem's been drinking and you want to build trust and you want the trust to come back super fast, you need to look into SoberLink. I have put the link in the description for you. I'm also going to put the link right here in the chat, if I can get it up there. And if you use this link, I think if you end up getting their system, there's like a promotion code, a coupon code, basically, you can get a discount. So it's there in the chat. It's there in the description. Definitely check it out. It is literally the #1 tool that we've used in our offices to help families heal. It has been the most exceptional thing. Let's move on to what the family members can do to help out the person in early recovery, because there's some things you can do. I mean, yes, they're responsible for their recovery, but there's some things you could do that'll speed it along and make things smoother and be helpful. So much of what family members try to do to be helpful is very counterproductive. And a lot of times it's done with all of the best of intentions, but it's not helpful. Like one of those things is hovering. It it's super uncomfortable and super awkward when they feel you hovering. And I know you're trying to be like super sneaky about it and act like you're not hovering, but they can feel you hovering. They can feel you worrying, right? They can feel that tension building up in you, even if you're doing your best sometimes to keep that under wraps. So be mindful of what energy you're bringing. Be mindful. The fear, it's the hovering, I think, is the fear energy that you're bringing, because that's not it's not helping anything out. They feel your fear, which then usually brings up resentment in them, because it triggers guilt, which then defensively turns into resentment. So the best that you can, let's hold that back. Another thing that you can do that is super helpful is realize that they're not going to be from 0 to 100 immediately just because they got sober. It's going to take a little bit for them to get on their feet, and they are going to step up and they are going to start taking some responsibilities. But there's a lot of reasons why it's going to take a minute to get them back to full force, A game level. It's going to take some months to get back there. So a lot of times what happens with the families is we're so exhausted because we've been carrying the load for so long. We're just ticked off. And now that you're sober, it's like the fear is dying down a little bit and the anger starts to come through. And it's like, no, I need you to step in. I need you to get a job. I need you to pay the bills. I need you to take care of the kids. I need you to deal with the license issue and start to sort of damage control some of these things and jump through all these hoops. Neurochemically, the person isn't their best, okay? It takes a while. I'm not talking about they're in withdrawal. I'm just talking about even past withdrawal. It takes a real good long while for those brain chemicals to stabilize, for them to have like motivation levels that are normal, for them to have energy levels that are normal, for their anxiety and irritability to go down. So I know it's like, finally we got there, they left treatment, they're sober, great, they're back. But even though they're sober, it's going to take some time to get them on their feet. So I know you've waited a long time, but now's not the time to blow it. Okay. We're there. We're on the right path. Have patience. Okay. The longer they're sober, the more they'll be, the more they'll be able to take on, the less irritable they'll be, all that kind of stuff. So give them a little time. Another thing you can do is, this is a hard one, but is understand their point of view. And if you are a family member and you've been watching this channel, you've got training on how to do this, because that's what I teach you guys to do. If you're in the invisible intervention, you're like a well-trained soldier on how to do this. So you got this. Maybe you don't agree with everything they did, but can you understand where they were coming from? And I mean more than just understand that like they have an illness. I just mean understand their hurt and their pain and their difficulty and their shame in the situation. It's going to allow them to feel safer faster. They're going to trust you faster. Yes, they don't trust you just as much. I'm going to say more than you distrust them. That's the thing. It's a two-way street. So just do the best you can to understand where they're coming from now. And also, even if you don't agree, where they were coming from then, right? Most of the time, people are just they're trying to solve a problem with their addictive behavior. They're just picking a really bad solution, and then they get stuck in it. It's super helpful if you can see the positive in them, right? Sometimes they need you to be able to see the positive in them, because sometimes they can't see the positive in themselves. And there are ways you can lay this on too thick. Like if you get super too cheerleadery, that can feel inauthentic and it doesn't work. But if you can catch the little small things that are going right, and you can bring that up and you can sort of positively reinforce that, they probably don't even realize. Like I do that with clients all the time. I'm like, dude, you got through that without using like You didn't even think about using, like, holy gosh. And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess I did. Can you see the positive, not just progress they're making, but the positive in who they are as a person? Because whether they show it to you or not, they feel terrible. I promise you. Okay. So they don't like themselves. They they may have a lot of bravado when they talk to you about it, because I know a lot of them have that mask, but deep down they feel terrible and they need some help sometimes seeing their own strengths and their positive qualities. And that helps give them the courage and the strength to get through the next hard day and the next hard day. One thing you can do, this is the hard one. This is going to be my hard ask of you, family members, is turn the heat down. I know they deserve the heat. I know they deserve your anger and your frustration and your resentment. You know what? It is 100% fair. Your feeling is 1,000,000% valid, but turn it down, because the heat is coming off of you so strong that you're scary. Okay. And if they're not scared of you, they're at least distrustful of you and don't want to be around you because they feel like you're constantly critical. Even when you're not saying it, you can feel it coming out your pores. You're bringing the energy of the anger and the resentment. So do whatever you've got to do to turn the heat down. Some ways of turning the heat down is just being able to see the positive in them, because it's going to help you reassure yourself that there are good things happening, right? Get time for yourself. Get away from it for a little while. Don't constantly think about it. Don't talk about it. Heck, don't even watch my videos all the time about it, because it's going to remind you of it, right? Whatever you got to do, get that negative energy to come down. If you got to do some yoga, some meditation, whatever it is, bring it down, because it is a super big trigger for your loved one who's in early recovery. Another thing you can do that is really powerful here is you can, I'm hesitant to say it. I'm almost scared to say it, but you can own your part of the problem. The reason I'm scared to say it is because I'm going to get some grief, because people are going to say, I didn't cause that problem. I'm not saying you caused the problem, but you probably didn't always interact with it perfectly. I don't always interact with it perfectly, even with my clients, and I only have to be with them for 1 hour. So I know that there have been moments that you're not proud of, or maybe there's some things you did that just weren't helpful along the way. It doesn't mean you caused it. And if you can own that, they're gonna trust you so much more, so much faster, because they're gonna know that you know, right? If you can just own that, and part of doing that is being able to say statements like, I know not every problem we have is because of the addiction. One of the things I hear people in early recovery say all the time about their loved ones is they think that my drinking is the only problem we have, but they are wrong, because we got this and this and this problem, and 4 of those are her or him. And so when you can own that, that gives them reassurance that you get it, that you're working on you, and then there's a lot more safety and trust. And this is how we can come back together. Another thing you can do, you can ask them what you can do to help the process. Because sometimes we just automatically do things, and we're trying to help, but it's not helpful. We call up grandma because Christmas is going to be at grandma's, and we tell grandma, make sure there's no alcohol there. And then the person in early recovery finds out you did that, and then they feel humiliated and embarrassed, right? And that's just, you're just doing that out of the best intentions. I mean, there's nothing ill will about it, but the things you are thinking of that might be helpful are probably not helpful. I'll go ahead and tell you one of the things that you're trying to do to be helpful that's not helpful. Reminding them all the time of their meetings, of their medicine, of their sessions, constantly bringing it up in any way is a constant reminder. And if you can bring that back, it makes you so much more approachable. And if by the grace of God, they do, maybe they watch a video, maybe the Spirit just got in them, and they do open up and talk to you about it. Your job is to be cool, calm, and collected, and not to push that conversation too far, as in too deep into the conversation, and not to push that conversation too long, because you have to create, if you want them to be able to talk to you about it, and I know that you want that more than anything else, like I know that is like the main thing that will help you feel better, is you got to be cool when they do it. Okay. So if we can give each other a little grace and a little forgiveness, and a little consideration, and understand that both sides are hurting and both sides are in pain, it's these small, little, tiny things that we can do that will help expedite the process, where you can really make the pain go away a lot faster, right? The resentments will heal, the fear will get better and better and better, and everybody will be bringing their better selves to the game. I was talking to one of my clients this week. It's one of my strengths-based recovery clients, and this client actually has already finished the recovery coaching program he's in with me, but we were doing like a follow-up kind of thing. And he, of course, he's telling me he's doing great as far as like his abstinence and everything like that. But the thing that I heard him saying that I was most impressed with, even more impressed with, the fact that he's been, abstinent, and it's been like maybe like almost a month since he finished the program. But he was saying like how he checks in with his wife every day, how she checks in with him, how he actually has this underlying fear that he's going to get too complacent about the relationship and then things are going to backslide. And so he's like, they're both honestly super mindful about how they're interacting with each other, about how they're making decisions together, and they're trying to be super considerate of what the other person needs, even though there's a lot of pressure right now. I mean, there's a lot of pain that's still there, but the mindfulness and the consideration that both he and his wife are putting towards it is what gives me the reassurance that he's going to stay on the right path, because those are the skills that we need, right? Because what happens is if that relationship starts to fall apart, he starts to build resentment, he starts to feel sorry for himself, he starts to, quit caring about his recovery, and we all know what happens from there. It's no good. So it's taking care of your relationships is one of the best things you can do for your recovery, because when your relationships are off kilter, your whole life's a mess. Everything will be in chaos and drama. So consider the health of your relationships to be parallel to the health of your recovery. All right, Bree, we are almost to the time to take some questions, comments, and concerns. So Bree is about to put some of those up here. In the meantime, while she gets those ready, I'll remind you there are always resources in the description, including how to get recovery coaching. If you're trying to get into recovery and early recovery, you can have recovery coaching with me. If you have a loved one who you're trying to help, you can talk to our family counselors. We have our membership program. We have a whole page of free downloads. There's tons of resources in there. So definitely check them out if you are ready to take the next step. Bree, do we have some good questions? When I got on here, Bree said, there's questions already, and we weren't even on here. So I know there's some good questions back there, Bree. All right, Ivan and Lydia says, question. Oh, thank you for putting the question mark in the front. That helps us see them better. So, or write the word question if you want. Thank you, Lydia. So the question is, how do I, as the family member, ask my loved one about how I can be more helpful without coming across as hovering, nervous about seeming over controlling? It's the tone that you use more than anything else. And so if you're, well, I guess actually, as I think about it, you can combine this. This is going to give you a two-parter, so you're going to get double points for this, okay? First of all, you can say, I know I've been super hovery in the past, and that's not helpful. So that's you owning your end of the issue. You say, but I really do want to be helpful. So like, let me know. Let me know what I can do to be helpful. You need me to run interference for something. You need me to cover something so you can get to a meeting. You need me to give you space. You need me, what, you need me to get all the alcohol out of the house. Just tell me, because I'm here to be on your side. And if you say it super casual like that, like not in a nervousy, fearful tone, and almost, I call it the drive-by comment, like not in this big, deep, like heavy conversation that goes on forever. Just be like, BTW, what can I do to be helpful? Just throw it out there. And maybe if your loved one is like super hypersensitive to uncomfortable conversations, just text it or something if you need to, and just ask. And if they say, there's nothing, I'm doing fine, say, well, if something comes up, I'm your person. Let me know. Tara says, question, hi, Amber. I'm having a difficult time dealing with my anger after my loved one's relapse after only 3 weeks clean. I want to ask him why, but that's a no-no, right? Tara, this is a really great question, and I am guessing that there's about 100 other people who are feeling your frustration right now that literally are watching this video that are like, I hear you, Tara, right? Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to remove the word only from this sentence, because the sentence that you wrote to me, this is the thing that you're saying into yourself over and over again. He relapsed after only 3 weeks clean. And you're putting that only in there, what is happening is you're in your own mind, and I know you're not doing this consciously, but you're subconsciously minimizing the progress that was made, right? So the first thing I want you to do is in your own self-talk, take the word only out and say, hey, we got 3 weeks. I just want you to shift the way you're looking at it. Say, if you can do 3 weeks, you can do it. Like you've proven you can do it. You can ask why, but I just want you to make an educated guess about whether or not that would be helpful in your situation. Like, how open are they to talking about it? How much trust do you have with them? If there's a lot of tension, if there's a lot of uncomfortableness, I don't even know if I would go into why, because sometimes people relapse and they don't even know why, but they feel like they're supposed to have a reason why, and everyone asks them why, their counselor, their spouse, their sponsor, and then they don't even realize that they'll start making up reasons. Well, this, well, that. And sometimes it's just not that complex. What's more important than you asking them why is to say, hey, look, you had 3 weeks. Let's get back on track. I call it damage control. And there's some videos, Tara, on the channel about what to do when your loved one relapses. And if you respond to them in a positive, good way, they'll respond to you back in a positive, good way, and that will help you feel less anger. Because it's like, how can I help them meet my needs better, right? It's a back and forth feedback loop, and that's the thing that's going to decrease your anger. Jazz says, how can we learn to trust again? I lose sleep because I'm afraid my addicted loved one who lives with her dad will show up. She's relapsed after 3 years in prison. I can't seem to forget all the lies, stealing, and chaos. Are you asking, I'm being quiet here just because I'm not sure if what you're saying is, how can I learn to trust them again, but they're still actively using? I don't know that you can learn to trust them again if they're still actively using. What you can learn to do is you can trust yourself. You can work your own recovery program to say, if they show up, I'm going to handle it, right? No matter what happens on that end, I'm going to keep myself in a good place, because the issue that you're struggling with is you don't want to feel dysregulated again, and you do have some control over that. So if they're still actively using, then that really is the only route that you can take. Let's see where he's going to get us another question. Here it is. MD says, addicted loved one says talking about it makes him feel worse. Always acts as if he did nothing. This keeps it in the dark, but saying that keeps me quiet. Stay quiet or talk. He started a program with you 2 weeks in. Okay. This is a super good question, MD. And I actually I saw this question in one of the comments on another video recently. And the question was something like, what do you do when they still won't even acknowledge that they did anything wrong? And that's similar to the question that you're asking. If you can't get them to talk about the addiction, then what you can do is you can gently ease into other kinds of difficult topics. And you can train them that you're not going to overreact, that you're not going to freak out, that you're not going to push them to go to a place they don't want to go. So, what that does is it creates safety. The way I do it with a brand new client is it may take a while before they can talk to me about the addiction. So, whatever they do talk to me about, I'm creating trust and safety. And part of that is it's not just saying everything they want to hear. Part of it is telling them the honest truth, but that actually will create trust, even if it's not what they want to hear. But basically it's like I'm not going to push them further than they want to go in a conversation. And what we're teaching them is that I'm not going to make you feel worse about the situation. And so you may have to start with some other things. And then eventually, I think that probably will lead into them being able to talk more about the addiction. Callistus says, question, how do I respond to a loved one who is wanting confirmation of his paranoia? He thinks people are investigating him during a drug-induced psychosis. This is a hard question. There's nothing I can tell you this. There's nothing you can say that can convince him that what he thinks is not true. So don't waste any time trying to give them evidence, trying to prove, trying to talk them out of it. The more you do that, the more intricate and deep the delusion will become. So the primary tactic is to kind of evade the question. Because any kind of talking about it is going to make it worse, and it can dig you into a hole, and then the paranoia comes in your way too. If they're asking you like, do you believe me? Sometimes they're asking you questions like that, and sometimes you can say, well, I've always known you to be pretty honest in the past. So, like you can kind of sidestep it by not directly addressing it and saying, you can say, well, I'm not sure about it because I'm not seeing the same things you are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not happening or whatever. Just kind of gently go around it and honestly avoid the topic. Then you're not going to talk him out of it. And the more conversation about it, the worse it's going to get. Here's more question from Nala. When you get used to staying in your own lane, getting out of the bad guy role, no expectations, etc., and just get into your own life, so to speak, then things turn around for the good. They start, is there more to that one? They start wanting to interact more, all the things you hope for. I kind of feel like I don't answer text right away like I used to. I guess I feel unsupportive, and that makes sense. How do I handle this? So the first part of what Nola's saying here is absolutely true. But then the second part is when you say, I kind of feel like I don't answer text right away like I used to. I guess I feel unsupportive, if that makes sense. If I'm a little confused by the question, but I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying you feel bad because when they text you, you don't respond back right away. I think that's what you're saying. Sometimes not responding back right away is just a healthy boundary, especially if there's a history of demanding or controlling in that way, like you didn't answer me back or whatever. So, sometimes not answering people's text at all can make them feel almost like paranoid, like what's happening, why, and then you start to overguess everything. But also not dropping everything you're doing to stop and answer the questions. It's an okay boundary. And then when you get the time, you're going to answer it, and then you'll probably answer it in a better, more helpful, effective way because you didn't try to rush to do it. So, I mean, I personally think it's okay to not answer text right away. So I don't know. I don't think you should be beating yourself up about that. Unless you're doing it purposefully just to make them suffer. If that's happening, it might be different. Robin says, thanks for all you do. I recently found your channel after realizing my sister has once again relapsed. She decided she is no longer interested in sobriety. Now what? I'm exhausted. I tell you what, Robin, like once they have sobriety and then all of a sudden they relapse, and not just that they used again or whatever, but their mindset goes all the way back. It is crazy making. It's shocking to me every time it happens. And I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen it so many times. It's just like, what the heck? Like, how can you lose all your wisdom that you had 5 minutes ago? But they do. And so there's, in this process of helping and supporting, there's a time to hold them, a time to fold them, right? That's what Kim likes to say in her spouse education. When do you walk away? When do you run? When do you hold? And a lot of times when I have a client who maybe we've been through it, they've been doing good for a while, they relapse back, and I feel them sort of going back, what I will do is, not in an angry way, but I'll gently step back. The way I do it usually is I say, you know what? Let's just put you on an as needed basis, not even in a punishment way or whatever. I'm just basically giving them some room and space to preserve the relationship so that when they decide they're going to get back on track, that the relationship is intact and I can be a helpful, supportive person. So when this happens with clients, I just sort of gently take some steps back before it blows up. Because one of the things that's going to happen is, if this person's still, if I continue, like as a coach, to continue to see somebody when their mindset is they're using, they will slowly start to build a resentment toward me, because they know that I know. And every time they see me, they're going to be feeling bad about it. And so if I keep them coming when they're not in that great, when they're not in the right mindset, it's going to backfire. So I think back up. Plus, you said you're exhausted. So just back up a little bit. Not I'm angry, not I'm punishing you. Just slowly backpedal out of it. Carolina says, how do I respond when my husband has erroneous negative beliefs about me that developed from delusions, confabulations developed during using? They are incredibly bizarre. He insists I confess. I have tried empathizing with his feelings and not arguing with delusions, but it is difficult when I am the epicenter of everything that's wrong to him and he accuses of very hurtful, degrading. What you're talking about, I think, Carolina, is more than just how naturally people with addictions build resentments towards you and they start to see the negative in you. You're talking about delusion. And like we talked about a little earlier, you can't argue with delusion. And the more you talk about it and the more you try to prove yourself, I mean, you could show them cell phone evidence, you could show them camera evidence, it's not, the delusion will spiderweb around whatever evidence. So like if you, like you went out and you went to the grocery store and they accused you of going to see your boyfriend, for example, right? You could take your phone out, you could let them see the Find My Friends or whatever, and they could literally saw your GPS the whole time. But what they'll say is, oh, you figured out a way around that, or oh, you must have a second phone. Like the delusion will wrap around any evidence you give. So unfortunately, there's not a really good way to convince them that what they think isn't true. It'll either have to clear the longer they're sober, or sometimes it requires a medical intervention to get the psychosis to clear. But it's tough. Terry R. says, my loved one went to rehab years ago, sober 1 year now, says she is not an alcoholic, detached herself from family. How do we act towards her when she does come? Pretend all is good? Terry, are you saying, I know you're saying that she was a year sober and now she's saying that she's not an alcoholic. Does that mean that she's back to drinking? It probably does. If she's not already back to drinking, it probably means she will be soon. Went back to drinking now. Okay, so Terry says, yes, confirmation. Went back to drinking now and says she's not an alcoholic. Detached herself from family. This is another one like before, when the question we had before where the person asked about, I think, their sister who says, I don't want to be sober anymore. This is where you just sort of give them some space. This is not punishment, but you just sort of back up a little bit, because when they come back around, and if they had a year sober, I usually say, once you've had real recovery, you can't unhave it. And it's in the back of your head. So you can go out there and use again, but you can't unknow what you know. So somewhere deep down inside, they know, right? and they're going to come back around to that. And so the best that you can, salvage the relationship without putting yourself in a bad situation or having bad boundaries, and just get a little distance from it. You do not want to argue with them. You don't want to remind them of everything that happened before they went to rehab and while they're an alcoholic. The more you do that, the more they're going to defend their stance. It's like the delusion, just like we talked about delusions. The more you try to argue with them, they're going to defend it more. And it's like the delusion will get stronger around the going back into denial, basically. Beverly says, have you ever heard this before? My husband doesn't want to talk about it or bring it up and wants me to say it's in the past, even when the past is last week. He says, you'll never get over it. Have I ever heard that before? Yes, from every single wife that's ever walked through the doors or talked to us in person or on a video. Yes, every person who's trying to overcome an addiction feels that way. And it's for those reasons we talked about. It makes them feel extremely uncomfortable. They feel shameful about it. And it makes you as the family member feel really freaked out when they say the past is the past, because what it does is it's making you think that they don't get it. And that number one need you have is to know that they get it, right? So there might be ways of getting some reassurance from them without directly going into that. And if I think you said too that they're only a week sober, they're still literally in withdrawal. Like maybe they're not having to go to inpatient, but their brain chemistry is a mess. So you need to give a wide berth right now. And so they're probably just not ready to see it physiologically and psychologically. The better and healthier they get, the more able they are to not only see what's really happening, but to acknowledge it. So it's still really early on. So I would just sort of give it some time and space, and don't press the issue right now. All right, I think we are to the end of our time for today. You guys ask awesome questions as always. Thank you so much for joining me live. And those of you who are watching on the replay, I appreciate you being here too. You can jump in the conversation in the comments. I read every single one of them. I will be here live again next Thursday, every Thursday, live at 1 o'clock Eastern. And don't forget, there are lots of resources in the description, recovery coaching, sober link, free resources, all kinds of stuff. So be sure to check those out. Bye, everybody.